Hello there. King Charles the Woke is now a very large and fully empowered cog within the ever more woke and net zero loving UK establishment machine. We've already seen our civil service become a hive of wokeism, where its mandarins see its most important tasks as squaring away pronouns while dismantling the UK state and reassembling it as a serfdom to supranational organisations like the European Union and the UN. And we have now installed someone with a long record of what I regard as left-leaning, so-called progressive political activism into the position of head of state within our constitutional monarchy. And horror of horrors, in 18 months or so's time, Keir Starmer will be sat in number 10, ready to increase the woke and net zero drives. The takeover will be complete. Now let me be clear. I do have a great respect for the UK concept of a constitutional monarchy. But within that constitutional monarchy, apart from their personal activities being beyond reproach, the monarch and heirs should be politically silent, however strong their personal views may be. Those personal views should stay private. When they air their views publicly and often, then the system will inevitably break down. Because when the state opening of Parliament speech, delivered by the monarch on behalf of the government that wrote it, when that speech is at odds with the monarch's publicly held views, then it pours doubt over the whole exercise. In fact, that might lead to circumstances where the monarch's views, not the voters' views, then start to drive the government agenda in order to avoid embarrassing the palace. That's why monarchs and heirs should stay silent on politics. But right now, politicians, especially ministers of state, will know that all they have to do to stay in the good books of those in Buckingham Palace is to impose a steady stream of economically damaging net zero policies on us the people. You never know, it might get them fast-tracked to that knighthood or that seat on the red benches of the House of Lords. Be in no doubt, King Charles III has a vision for your future, a vision he shares with the other great and good, a vision we know he is pushing, and a vision you may not like, but a vision you will have no say in. And that is not how a UK constitutional monarchy should work. And one area where there is a lot of crossover between the civil service, the Labour Party and King Charles is the headlong leap into the abyss of net zero. In fact, King Charles is taking an active lead in this and is possibly shackling the government's hands in how fast that leap is taken. As Prince of Wales, Charles was a great advocate of, and possibly the first to use the terms, the Great Reset and Build Back Better. And we know how those have stuck. He was also the big driver behind the Sustainable Markets Initiative, which aims to use the private sector worldwide to accelerate the transition to a sustainable future. But to achieve this, the whole global financial structure will have to be changed, so as to shift the strategies and operations of the corporate structures away from serving their clients and shareholders towards serving the people and planet generally. They will become part of the global governance structure. Their top duty would no longer be to make a profit, a recipe for failure. And to achieve this, there will need to be some sort of global political and financial governance, because achieving the Charles dream will require the right incentives to be put in place to ensure corporate compliance. The right initiatives to ensure that money is only invested in the correct things. Correct as decided at a planet-wide level, without you and me needing to know anything about it, vote on it, or worry our silly heads about it. Remember that Charles has been warmly received by the WEF at Davos in the past, where he's laid out his net zero credentials publicly and in full. He also has contacts, and I worry he might be tempted to push past any constitutional boundaries when communicating with them so as to advance his own agenda. And remember, he or those around him have allegedly pushed the envelope in the past when getting donations for his charity organisation. Cash in suitcases and Fortnum and Mason bags, if I remember rightly. Now, for those that consider the concept of a constitutional monarchy as outdated and all about privilege, I'll say the following few words. President Blair, President Brown, President Cameron, President May, President Johnson. Because that is what is likely to happen if you get rid of a constitutional monarchy. Either that or some or other multi-millionaire or billionaire, US style, and with their family dynasty set up. Or even worse, someone from the sports or celeb arenas. President Lineker, maybe. And having a president would still require residences, cars and aeroplanes, police protection, all the trappings of state. In fact, the investiture of a UK president would probably look something like yesterday's pomp and ceremony. Or we could tear the lot down and have the Prime Minister as combined head of government and head of state, with no checks and balances, I suppose. And given the UK's two-party state, or more accurately, single-party state where the suits are changed between red and blue every few years, given that, the President and the Prime Minister would very often be from two different parties and always at political loggerheads. But as I've said before, a constitutional monarchy requires a monarch to act constitutionally by keeping their political views to themselves. But how hard will Charles be working to get back to making climate speeches at Davos? Alongside Keir Starmer, of course, who recently told the BBC that he preferred the Davos way of doing things over the Westminster way, because it was full of people he could work with, he said, etc. He and Charles look like they're singing from the same WEF sheet, don't they? Now, in a constitutional monarchy, monarchs of the realm should be like BBC presenters. No one should know what their political views are. But right now, the UK is being let down on both fronts. Big time. Richard.
So that was the King's coronation, the grandest show of pomp and pervert we have had since the last coronation. An extravagant expression of establishment theatrics where we, the British people, show the rest of the world that we do Stockholm Syndrome better than any other nation on earth. And we are proud to hand over control of our lives to a small group of individuals as we defer our personal responsibilities and decision-making to others. After all, it's always the monarch's government. Her late Majesty's government imprisoned us in our own homes and poisoned us, whilst His Majesty's government are about to hand over sovereignty regarding our health system to a global health authority. But let's forget about that and keep waving the flags, yes. And there they were, some of the most despicable people on earth gathered in one place in Westminster Abbey, with the media selling it as a wonderful, wonderful thing. The rich and powerful, all their strangely swearing allegiance to a king who is not their king. I thought that was very odd as they pledged their oaths in some sort of collective Borg-like unison. Strange how such a lavish and romantic spectacle can evoke feelings of love and loyalty towards one's own captors. Meanwhile, a lady sleeps in a grave. Her name was Diana, and she feared that her husband would have her done away with in the same manner that she actually died. I never had much time for her when I was a young man, but as the years have gone by, I feel more empathy towards her and her tragic life. Sleep well, Princess. Anyway, what do you lot think about the coronation and the monarchy? Many of you will disagree with Jeff and myself. Jeff and I disagree with each other on many an occasion, but we both believe it is important to have free speech and to even argue with one another. So leave your pearls of wisdom and express yourselves in the comment section below. And we will see you again tomorrow at 5:45, 5:45, 5:45.